So I just watched a video about cultural genocide, and it's a really good video. You should go watch it. I reposted it, so you should be able to see it in my repost. If not, I can like tag people in it or figure out how to make sure you can see it. She talks about the Palestinian boy who was kidnapped during the original Nakba and came back to his hometown as an IOF soldier. She talked about how the colonizer will erase the culture of the colonized. And we've seen that, I think, with them destroying olive trees, which are very important to Palestinian culture. Well, it made me think about something I've heard about some indigenous people, and I just did a quick Google search and saw an ACLU article about an Native American woman from the Waccamaw Siouan tribe in North Carolina, and she was talking about how her school should not be allowed, her son's school should not be allowed to make him cut his hair because it's a part of centuries of tribal tradition. It was actually something like, my son's hair is a part of a 1,000-year-old tribal tradition. My son's school called it bad. You should read it. And that made me think about a TikTok that I saw where a little boy was being punished by being forced to sit in the barber's chair and have his afro shaved. You know, he was crying hysterical. It was like, I felt traumatized watching him go through it. I can't imagine what he will take from that as far as like trauma, and on top of that, being shamed on the internet, like having that on the internet forever now. It's like that additional trauma. In an article about an indigenous man who had his hair cut by a hospital for medical reasons, there's a really good quote. I don't have it in front of me because my computer just died, but it was basically like, in the Lakota culture, your hair has the memories of your whole life. It has the love of your mother who brushed it and braided it and poured all of her love into it. And for me, that feels very emotional. Like, I don't know what it feels like to them, but it feels very emotional. It feels like, you know, losing a part of yourself. Hair is really important when it comes to a colonized dichotomy, because often colonizers will kind of cast the colonized as less than, as animalistic or wild in some way, and they will often use their appearance to contribute to that. They're basically, you know, like pointing at them being uncivilized and using it as a justification to civilize them. And we can see that with Black people and people of color and the struggles that they have in the white patriarchy, well, yes, with their hair and the like acceptable standards of hair in different settings, and the way that their hair has been used to contribute to their continued oppression in the society. And you know, hair is very important when it comes to this kind of colonized and cultural genocide conversation. And I was thinking about all of this, and I was imagining, like, you know, the people who get in my YouTube comments and argue with me about stuff, and like what they would say. And like, I think it's really easy to also then trivialize something like cutting hair, because a lot of us do it. It's very normalized, especially in a modern society. Not in a modern society, in our modern society. Like, in my perspective as a white American. And it's like, oh, but you know, it'll grow back. Like, it's very easy to see people who want to kind of downplay how deep all of this is, and they'll find any way to do that and be like, well, it's gonna grow back, it's just hair. And I remembered, like, I don't I kind of have to, you know, train myself to get over it, but I had at least one moment where I got a haircut and I paid for it, and I was a teenager, and it was probably one of the first times I paid for my own haircut, and I was so excited. I went to the mall, and she didn't give me what I wanted at all, and I was like, God, 16, and I like was already a loser at school, and I just remember being like, I look like a mom, and her being like, what's wrong with that? I'm like, you don't get it. And I cried when I left, and I had never cried over a haircut before. I've teared up about one time because my girlfriend used to do my hair and she got a little overzealous one time, but it was painful because it's like, you know, it's a part of who you are. It's a part of how you present yourself to the world. It's a part of how you feel about yourself. And like, regardless of whether you think aesthetics are important or not, and it's really hard to argue in a contemporary day that aesthetics aren't important, but like, it is literally a part of you. It's like, you know, you don't feel the pain physically when it goes, but it is a part of you. And then if you have a culture where it's not just a part of your body and your self-identity, it's a part of your cultural identity, it's a part of your familial identity. Like, I know that you cannot tell me that if somebody forced you to shave your head against your will, even if you didn't have all of that, you would be okay with it. And that's one aspect. That's one aspect. One example of what colonizers do to colonize other people. To do this sort of cultural genocide. To not only unalive thousands, millions of people, whether quickly or slowly, to displace them from land they've lived on for thousands of years, to let them starve and freeze and die of infection, and also to erase their culture. The one thing they could have left. They have each other and they have their culture. It's like the last nail in the coffin. Do you know what I mean? And that's why it is emotional. Like, it's all emotional. It's all emotional. But culture is a part of your identity. It's a part of how you conceptualize yourself, how you relate to the world, how you identify yourself in the world, how you relate to the people around you. Like, I just imagine people being like, it's not that deep. But it's fucking deep. It's fucking that deep, bro. Anyway, please go watch the video that I talked about at the beginning, and that I reposted. And if you can't see it, let me know, because she had a lot of really smart things to say. And I got way more upset than I expected, but like, I was trying to do like I'm gonna talk about things that I know, and that's what it is. First of all, it is that deep. We're supposed to feel this way. We're supposed to be upset. This is supposed to be impossibly hard and insane and terrifying. But that's why we have to keep talking about it. So, keep talking about it. Jesus.